Here we go. And welcome back to the DFI podcast.
Awesome.
Season 2. It's Eshan. Good to talk with you again.
It's been a long time. It's been a while. Season 2, episode 1. I am excited for this year. It has been wild. Did not expect Bitcoin to be near 70,000. Did it cross 70,000 today? I'm not sure, but it's near 70,000. It did, right? I didn't expect it to cross 70,000 today. So it's been wild. Yeah.
The number went up. I mean, I think we were like 35 or something last time we talked, but clearly people weren't watching the podcast, so they had other things to do with their time, which was invest Bitcoin. So, we did our small part.
You know what I would really like to see as someone who worked at Protocol Labs? Filecoin to hit 50. And I could get like a nice house or something.
That'd be okay. Yeah. Yeah, that yacht's not going to buy itself.
I know, right?
So that's great news. And then also congratulations to the Tortilla family. We're super excited for you guys.
Thank you.
So everyone's had lots of positive success over the past few months.
It's been a great. We'll talk about my startup Lumno more on another pod, but we came out of stealth. We'll be announcing some big news over the next couple of weeks. So that's been fun. So a lot of stuff happening.
Very exciting. Well, should we kick off a little bit of the ETH Denver conversation? You and I were just chatting about decentralization, AI agents, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the question for you. So I didn't make it to ETH Denver. But my first question was like, how was ETH Denver, right? What were the themes about ETH Denver? How was the energy? I heard, I spoke to a bunch of people. I heard it was even bigger than last year, which is impressive. And I heard like an equally amount of people got COVID again. So it seems like people went to ETH Denver and got sick, just like it happened last year. But in general, tell me about ETH Denver and how was it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It was bigger. It was better. There were more people building this year. There were some amazing projects at the end of it with the build-a-thon. There was more people in attendance. There were more side events. And I have to say, like, the biggest criticism last time was that the logistics were a little bit skittish at that Western Conference Center. But the Wi-Fi actually held up, so they're getting better each time. Connectivity was good. It was just improved. They're just making little tweaks along the way, so it was nice. There was all the excitement that you could anticipate, and there was also, interestingly, presidential candidate RFK Jr. made a surprise speech at the end of Saturday.
Oh wow. Very cool. Yeah, so I guess start with the RFK thing, because we haven't seen candidates really talk about crypto and stuff like that. And the importance of like having a monetary or like at least like a payment system that is outside of the government control, while being able to, of course, do anti-money laundering and anti funding of terrorism, right? All of that. But what was this talk about or speech about?
Yeah, he played very well to the crowd in the sense that he talked a lot about freedom of your own freedom of currency. To put it in other terms, I think he had bought some Bitcoin because his kids were involved in it. He's after this, I'm definitely going to buy some Ethereum. So he was playing the crowd and doing the politician thing, to an extent. But even more so, the lady who was interviewing him was Caitlin Long. I don't know if you ever heard of this lady, Caitlin Long. She had actually sued the Federal Reserve, and she was one of the first ladies to try to create a crypto-backed bank. So she's been like a big, kind of in the Bitcoin community, she's been a big personality. She was interviewing him, and he had a lot of strong opinions. I think even before his involvement with crypto, he was more of sort of a personal rights advocate. So his views and the crypto views sort of aligned well. The folks from the audience were asking some really interesting questions. When you become president, what will you do to, to support crypto or to make crypto, prevent it from being regulated? He wasn't up to date enough on crypto to have strong opinions on crypto policy, but in parallel, he was opposed to a lot of the authority that the regulators have right now, the executive branch regulators like the SEC and others have. So he was wanting to pull those back anyways. So there was definitely a confluence of interest between JFK or RFK and the crypto community.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, my issue with the crypto community has always been like people think that like these cryptocurrencies are going to be used by like everyday people for like normal payments, right? Like, and they're like, oh, let's get away from like state backed currency. I think that is like terrible. Or how do you enforce laws without state-backed currency, right? Like, part of it is like, not political but judicial, right? And then yeah, so and then there's like a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Being able to control your own monetary policy, not being reliant on another monetary policy, right? Like, historically, you've seen countries that were dollarized move away to their own currency. Now, a lot of those were implemented poorly. Central banks were corrupt, etc. Right? And governments didn't manage that well. But I think in general, I don't buy the let's use Ethereum or Bitcoin for transactions. But
It's
yeah,
true.
that's actually like really cool that but at the same time, I do agree with like RFK's thing of like, or in general, I do agree with the crypto community's thing of like, it's obvious that the SEC has, one, overreached, and two, like, they're only doing this because Gary Gensler was basically in SBF's pocket, right? Like, and now they're like, well, no, I wasn't, so let's go after all of crypto, right? Even though this was a bad actor at a centralized exchange who also had control of a hedge fund, right? And so those two things combined basically, so basically like, screw the entire crypto community over. So yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes. And on a related note, Hester Pierce was at the event. She made an appearance, and she's the commissioner that reports up to Gary Gensler. So I agree with you completely. It's not even necessarily fair to totally demonize the SEC, but certainly like Gensler's mistakes with certain exchanges. Interestingly, though, there were multiple people that had to be removed from the event during the speech.
Of course.
Speaking of the
Of
crypto
course.
community, yeah, it's a wild crowd. So there were multiple people that got up and started like shouting at the crowd, like, "This is bullshit." He's full. He's a warmongers or whatever. Like, and the security had to come and like pull these people back multiple times. So it was a bit rowdy. Nobody got hurt, but yeah, it was high energy to say the least.
I mean, I don't think the SEC as an institution is a bad institution. Historically, the SEC has been pretty good, right? You've got I don't know if the Fed now is from the Fed now is from like the Federal Reserve, so maybe not. But historically, the SEC, like, they try to go after bad actors. They, try to do good work to make sure that, things are being regulated well. I honestly think it's a combination of like, honestly, my read on this is like, it's mostly Gary Gensler and, trying to make sure he can be Treasury Secretary after Janet Yellen and like kind of rebound from like the political crisis, which was SPF, right? So,
Most
but
definitely.
yeah, very cool. How's
So,
the rest of? What were the other themes of ETH Denver?
well, so a couple other interesting themes, decentralized AI and sort of agents specifically were a big theme. A couple other themes that came up were interesting were Bitcoin is now cool again. So Bitcoin used to be
Yeah.
old and busted. And I remember talking to many people 2 years ago at Denver saying, oh, it's like even Ethereum is kind of like, like a boomer coin compared to these new fun alt ones. But now it's like totally like the opposite. And in fact, Bitcoin, people are really excited about building L2s on Bitcoin and restaking primitives on Bitcoin.
That is cool.
So the
Let's
innovations
talk
there.
about that actually on the Bitcoin thing. So I had some interesting thoughts. I've seen like, one, first thing, this whole like, oh, Bitcoin and Ethereum are boomer coins and stuff like that. Those are the people who are just like following like, coin market cap or something. They're like, oh, which coin went up 25% today? They're not like, where are all the developers? Where's the money? Right? Like,
Right. Yes. Yes. It's yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, people can get carried away, which is fine. But like in the short term, but in the long term, like this is a phrase: "Longest chain wins." I think they say. So
yes.
yeah,
I mean, not to say that there shouldn't be more innovation and more tokens or more L1s, but that's funny.
yeah, yeah.
So
I think they were talking specifically about an L1 that no longer exists. Ironically, so that's okay.
Yeah.
It happens.
So actually, I'm really glad to hear people are thinking about L2s on Bitcoin and restaking, because like my main issue with like Bitcoin was like we were, let's say, we always thought of Bitcoin as like, okay, we can use this as a currency to pay people things with, right? And then like over the last few years, that's basically been debunked. TPS is too low, and gas fees are too expensive. And now Bitcoin is literally digital gold, right? Like there's Bitcoin ETFs. And as soon as you introduce an ETF of an asset class, you're basically saying like you're not using it to transact, you're using it as an asset, right? And so now people are just like, it literally is being treated like, it's literally being treated as gold. You're going to see pension funds and, institutional investors, et cetera, put money into this ETF. You'll see the price of Bitcoin go up. Over time, you'll probably see it, not jump as much as other tokens, because other tokens will have developers and smart contracts and applications and all of this other stuff. But it's a little bit like disappointing, because the entire point of Bitcoin was like, we should be able to transact with this currency, when the white paper was written or when Bitcoin was released. And now it's basically treated as like oh, is it 60,000, is it 70,000, is it 80,000, right? It's basically like, what is the price of Bitcoin, digital gold?
You're right. Yeah, like it's funny. I was just looking back at the name of the paper, white paper. It was like an electronic peer-to-peer cash system, which it didn't end up being. It ended up being more of like a store of value. But like, if it is a store of value and it can be used as collateral, you would think that people would use it as collateral to secure other things. Like just like you use, gold maybe as a collateral to secure like a corporate bond. Why couldn't you use Bitcoin as a collateral to secure an L2 or to secure other services? Historically, Bitcoin has not had the capability to do that, or people haven't found ways to do that because it's purely like sending transactions that represents value or a Bitcoin amount, UTXOs. But now, like with the some of the new operations opcodes that they've added into Bitcoin recently, and some of the ones they're looking at adding back in, like opcat, it's going to give them functionality to do like basic primitives of logic within the Bitcoin transactions, and those basic primitives will let them lock it up for more sophisticated use cases. It's very low level and very limited, but the amount of capital staked is $1.3 trillion. Very tempting for a community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Bitcoin is bad. I'm saying that like the premise and earlier premise of Bitcoin and what like all we were hoping Bitcoin would be is it's not going to be that, right? Like it's very clear that like it's we've moved past that. But hearing like L2s on top of Bitcoin and restaking and staking on top of Bitcoin gives me hope. Right. So I actually want to hear more about like what you saw at ETH Denver around this, because we've always thought about like L2s and staking and restaking as like, Ethereum and other Solana and other chains kind of, kind of mechanisms. But, if this picks up, there is promise for like, faster transactions on Bitcoin. That means that there'll be more usage, right? So curious, curious how what you saw at ETH Denver and what you've been hearing outside of that, obviously both at EigenLayer and outside of L2's staking and restaking on Bitcoin.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because Bitcoin has had this intention of the Lightning Network, which was meant to be sort of a fast, cheap, inexpensive payment rails on Bitcoin, but it never seemed to materialize, like for a variety of like political and technical reasons. But there's a couple of companies, Stacks in particular, is building on top of Bitcoin. It's Stacks. What do they call it? Stacks.co is the name of it. And they're trying to build specifically L2s on top of Bitcoin. The other one that's interesting is Babylon Chain. Babylon Chain was founded through a relationship with the folks who founded EigenLayer, now the number 2 protocol on Ethereum, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's a relationship there of basically using some of the primitives in Bitcoin to allow folks to build other services. So maybe one day someone could build a decentralized AI service, and the security of those operators in that decentralized AI service could be backed through Bitcoin directly. So payments, securitizing loans, maybe even DeFi one day, all those open up as possibilities on Bitcoin once you get a few of these primitives in there.
That's awesome. Very cool. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see more use cases on Bitcoin. Though I wonder, like, almost if it's better if Bitcoin is treated as an asset and treated as store of value and digital gold, and allows it to be an introduction to other crypto, and and then L1s like Ethereum and Solana can be more focused on the application level, right? I don't know. I'm literally thinking out loud, but I could see like, maybe it's just better if like, there's the media hype around Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs and being digital gold gets adoption for actual crypto applications on the other L1s.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's like it feels like over each year we had this sway of like away from decentralization back to decentralization. And I think the reality is the Bitcoin community is opposed to these drastic changes, especially the miners and the large whales in the Bitcoin community. They do not want the core protocol to change because they deeply value its security. So there will be pressure to prevent Bitcoin from adopting these use cases, especially among the developers and the folks that have access to make changes. And there will always be a place for Ethereum and other protocols to build more sophisticated use cases over time.
All right.
One of those interesting protocols that seems to have gotten some legs recently is a protocol called EigenLayer,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
which we're fans of. We love the EigenLayer here on the DePIN podcast.
We chill EigenLayer here.
Most definitely. Yeah, but it's been a fascinating few months. EigenLayer was at around, I think, 5 billion TVL. No. It was like maybe like 3 or 4 billion TVL last time we had a podcast. And then it just
so for people
passed,
who aren't, this December 2023. Yeah, so that's 3 months ago. 3 months ago almost.
That's right. Yeah, about 3 months. So it's went from maybe 7th or 8th largest protocol on Ethereum to the second largest protocol behind Lido now. So
congrats. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a lot of opportunity. I think it's like a vote of confidence in the idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of sense, like people are really bullish. It's a complicated idea, like to explain to folks and for folks to kind of like, because it's a very new approach to security for Web3. But there's a lot of benefits for the Ethereum community, and there's a lot of folks that are starting to build or wanting to build on EigenLayer. So it's very good to see like that ecosystem slowly start to flourish.
So for people who don't know what EigenLayer is, or haven't heard of it, can you ELI5 explain like I'm 5 for EigenLayer, just so that people have a basic understanding?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, EigenLayer is security. It's shared security for the Web3 ecosystem. Ethereum has been, we were just talking about this before, the largest holder of security in the ecosystem, aside from Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's limited. But if you want to build a decentralized application, DeFi, social media, you build it on Ethereum. However, the capabilities there were limited. You needed to write a contract in Solidity. It was difficult. It's a very niche, very specialized skill. There's other folks that are building other things like Lens Protocol, Live Peer, people building decentralized AI protocols as well. They want to build more robust things that end users can take advantage of. And so EigenLayer wants to be a middleware, wants to expand on the security that Ethereum has built and let people build these more sophisticated services. And so what it does is it restakes that security. It takes people that have staked into Ethereum and allows them to then relay that security into these other networks to build more sophisticated applications.
Very cool. So just so I understand it correctly, so I have, regardless, let's just pretend I have 32 ETH, right? I'm not in a staking pool, and I've staked my tokens on Ethereum, and that means I get staked ETH back. And so what you're saying is that I can use that staked ETH and stake on EigenLayer, and then be able to like earn rewards based on my staked ETH that was being given to me for the original ETH that I staked. And so I'm kind of able to, let's say, double dip on rewards, right? Or like on income.
That's exactly right. It's both. So we have this concept of these folks that write services. Someone's going to write a decentralized AI service. It's going to compete with OpenAI, and it's going to be an EigenLayer based service. We'll call it an actively validated service. But when they run it on EigenLayer, they're going to get to choose from operators on the EigenLayer network. And those operators are going to run nodes on behalf of this AI service. And the people that restaked into EigenLayer, they're going to delegate their stake into those operators. So those operators will get fees when people use the decentralized AI service. If the operator is malicious and it's provable on chain that they're malicious, then the operator will get slashed a small portion of their holdings, and the restaker will as well. So there's upside, there's downside, there's alignment of incentives to behave correctly. But just as much as Ethereum, it is trustless, it's permissionless, and it really builds on that trust that was built on the Ethereum network.
That is awesome. I love like the new layers of in general, the new layers of protocols that people are thinking on top of Ethereum for, especially for staking, especially for decentralization and security. And it basically allows someone to be like, hey, I want to offer more security to more protocols. Right? Uh, I understood that correctly, right? Like you can give it to you can give it to a operator or a miner or a validator or another protocol, and you are basically allowing your original ETH, through mechanisms to be used to secure more protocols on the Ethereum L1.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the CEO Sriram Khanna describes it as opening up innovation. As opposed to having innovation just be within decentralized applications building on Solidity. If you open up the surface area to any type of application, then more folks can build faster, and more folks can build permissionlessly. And then you have sort of almost like a SaaS ecosystem where the one service built there can take advantage of another, and you can have building blocks and hopefully kind of build a robust marketplace of services.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, we are looking at different ecosystems right now. Again, we'll talk more, but definitely interested in the products that EigenLayer's built.
Well, so on a related note, speaking of that, is I don't know if you've seen, there's a new term that's getting a lot of traction in the Web3 space, which is very much relevant to what we're trying to talk about, which is DePIN. Have you seen DePIN?
DePIN. Yes, we've been hearing this term for we're building in the DePIN space, so it's okay. We're building a decentralized compute protocol for AI, right, focused on training and fine tuning, but yeah, we've been hearing about the DePIN space. We've been hearing about this term DePIN since we basically started the company. And so, yeah, I think it's super exciting. What were your takeaways? So I heard that ETH Denver was turned into like a decentralized AI DePIN kind of event where a lot of the conversations around that. What were your takeaways from there? As obviously you know about decentralized AI, but that's not your main thing. So what were your takeaways from that?
I think it's positive. I mean, it's to your point, those things have existed. I think it's nice that there's now like kind of a rallying point, a new term that didn't exist before, because previously we're trying to describe, like, imagine AWS, but it's decentralized. And so it didn't have its own identity. So, maybe now that it has a new term, maybe that's sort of a place people can kind of put, okay, it's DePIN. We know what DePIN is. Even though, Filecoin and other, Akash, other big systems existed. On the decentralized AI side, the use cases were very interesting to hear. It feels like the DeFi community is very interested in using AI for order making, order completion, intent based order management, decentralized agents that operate and trade on your behalf and have more intelligence than just what would be available on chain. There's a lot of demand for that space. I saw fully homomorphic encryption projects coming around. I saw a lot of use of ZK and trying to do ML that's fully ZK enabled. Like one team in particular, this is a fun idea. They referred to it as optimistic training.
Yeah, optimistic ML. Yeah.
Optimistic ML, yes, exactly. Which is like,
Yeah.
the benefits of optimistic rollups, but then like ML training, like, okay, we're gonna assume that it's correct, but if someone submits a fraud proof, then we go back and check. It's just a fun kind of confluence of ideas. There's a lot of enthusiasm there.
Yeah, we are looking at optimistic ML. It's been, we're looking at ZK. I will be pretty honest. We have spoken to a lot of ZK experts, looked into the technology ourselves, and as of right now, ZK ML is like nowhere there. If you're just trying to do inference, the cost to verify ML model on inference generated proof is, I don't know, orders of magnitudes more time than it takes to actually run inference, which means that like a customer, you have to give back the inference answer to the customer before you can verify that like the answer has been done correctly. And then same thing with training, it is like orders of magnitude more than inference. So ZKML is not there. I actually wrote about this on Twitter yesterday about, I'm interested to see how ZKML plays out, because like, ZKML is like, oh, you don't need to know the model. You can trust the ZKML to do inference that has been trained, that the the model has been trained on X and the inference is coming from this model, but kind of defeats the point of open source models, right? If you have the open source model, where does ZK come in, right? So that's an entire topic. But yeah, being in decentralized AI, we spent a lot of time, obviously, over the last year in this space, and so the amount of VCs hitting up my DMs after ETH Denver was ridiculous. A lot of people who said no before were like, "Hey, can we chat again?" Or like, "What do you think about this?" Like, I was like, "Okay,
Good.
guys, like,
Good.
went to ETH Denver, learned something new, got onto the hype train." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, well, it's
Uh,
funny how fast that changes versus 6 months ago when
I
it's
know.
like, oh, when you're a bear market. But the other thing that happened that was interesting during our break is OpenAI's pseudo scandal or the shift, leadership, and people are saying this is the most powerful AI, one of the most powerful companies in the world. They just ousted their CEO and then rehired him. How did that reverberate in the communities that you're a part of? Was there any consensus
Yeah,
on
I
like what
think
that
in
means?
SF, right? I mean, OpenAI, we're in San Francisco. OpenAI is in SF. A lot of AI stuff is happening here. So, like, for that week, it was like the talk of the town. Like, literally, I mean, again, this is in the tech world, right? So, but like, you go to any event, you go to any party, friends party, and like, you see what happened at OpenAI, right? Like, that week was like that thing. Obviously confirmed that, like, you know, Sam is now fully in charge of OpenAI, right? With him being rehired, and yeah, it was just like it was it was interesting. It's like it confirmed that, like, OpenAI is going to be a for-profit company, not a non-profit company, right? Even with their like convoluted structure and original ethos of being non-profit, it confirmed that Sam Altman is definitely one of the most powerful people in the Bay Area, if not the U.S., in terms of like the tech world. But also confirmed that OpenAI is going to be continuously making like improvements on GPTs, like GPT-4, etc. And where they're going to keep building new and better products. And you saw that with Sora got launched, I think, in late January, February, forget now. It's been, but like, with their text video generation, right? Obviously, V0, V1, whatever, they got a lot of stuff wrong, but like as an MVP, like phenomenal showing, and they'll make a lot of improvements on it. So I think OpenAI has solidified itself as like the AI leader in this space. Then you've got Google. They obviously messed up with their Gemini launch and everything a few weeks, right? And I don't know if you have that much time to hash what happened with Google. If you guys don't know, please Google it. It's hilarious and downright stupid at the same time. Um, but you've got other great things happening. There's a French company called Mistral that is building open source LLM called Mistral, Mistral small, Mistral large, etc., based on the size of the parameter, that is doing really well. Then there is Anthropic AI that is backed by Google and Amazon that has a LLM called Cloud. I think their new version is Cloud 3 that is doing well. So a lot of stuff happening in the LLM side, and I think this directly translates to, you know, a lot of decentralized AI stuff, DePIN, AI agents, a lot of the stuff that, where we think blockchain and crypto can make a difference in ensuring AI is used properly. And Vitalik wrote a post about this in end of January, right? I don't know if you saw that, but he wrote that. So that was again a phenomenal read. But yeah, so a lot of stuff happening in crypto and AI, and I think the Vitalik post spurred a lot of like crypto AI stuff, at least from my perspective.
Do you think it's going to generate additional use cases for the space or demand for use cases for decentralized AI?
I don't know, because so there's decentralized AI is just like one big thing, right? And basically, like, within decentralized AI, you've got DePINs, right, which are, I think, the best use case right now that I've seen of like crypto and AI, right? And then you've got AI agents, and I think, like, something that I've wrote about and talked about is that the internet infrastructure is not set up for AI agents to talk to each other, doing billions or hundreds of millions or billions of requests per second, right? We set up this API-based programmatic, like humans are making decisions, or like humans are writing code, and like based on logic, that code triggers an API call, right? But if AI agents are, talking to each other all the time, like an AI agent will be, like that's gonna clog up infrastructure, right? So we need to like increase bandwidth. We need to increase the amount of, different infrastructure that we have, both at the physical level and at like the software level. And so, and another interesting point, and we can talk all about this in the AI section, is like if AI agents are always talking to each other in the internet world, you actually want to be able to tell who's an AI agent and who's not, and then be able to tell if an AI agent is trying to pretend they're human, or if a human is trying to pretend it's an AI agent, which I think is less likely. But again, so you need to be able to cover these cases. And so like we need to actually think blockchain, NFTs, ZK are actually really good technologies to solve this problem, right? This is like, this isn't even like, oh, let's build like a Web3 AI system. This is fundamentally, there are Web3 native technologies that are really good at solving a problem of like at some point the internet is going to have like a bunch of AI bots doing all the work for humans, and so the amount of requests per second is going to go up in drastically on the infrastructure, and like we're not going to be able to handle it. We're not going to need bigger pipes, we're going to need faster waves, we're going to need more servers, right? We're going to need all of this. So yeah, we should definitely do an entire decentralized AI thing. There's been a lot of updates since we spoke. But yeah.
Fair enough. Well, Eshan, this is a really good start to just get caught up on some of the bulk that we missed. We're gonna have to make our break shorter next season. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Should we call it a wrap for today? Anything else that you think we should hit on?
No, I think we hit on everything. But yeah, I'm just excited that, crypto is in the mainstream media. And I know how many people have texted me like, oh, should I buy Bitcoin? And I was like, dude, you should have bought Bitcoin like 4 months ago. Like buying Bitcoin when you just hit all times high every single day is a risky proposition.
Buy high and sell low. I always tell my friends that. Buy high, sell low.
Yeah, exactly. I will say on the Bitcoin thing, again, this is not financial advice, so please do your own research. But in general, let's say interest rates stay the same, right? They don't go up. And Bitcoin ETFs, 10 of them have gotten approved, right? I was reading something. So once they come online and you see like, institutional investing, I do think like specifically Bitcoin, I'm not sure about the rest of the crypto market. In general, you're going to see go up, over time. And so I think in general, Bitcoin is a good buy, aside from like, outside of market conditions, right? Now, who knows if like, interest rates go down and all of that, then obviously riskier assets there'll be more money for riskier assets. If people feel like the economy is stronger, any money that's sitting in institutional that hasn't been deployed is going to get deployed, and some of that will come to crypto, right? So there's a lot of other stuff outside of market that market dynamics that can happen, but in general, if these ETFs if there's just more money pouring into Bitcoin, it'll go up just for no other reason besides just because there's more demand for limited supply.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's a clean runway, and that's thinking about Bitcoin in a somewhat short term basis. But think about Bitcoin at 10-year. Is Bitcoin to be around 20 years from now? What does that mean for its market cap? So you heard it here, folks. Eshan says buy, 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 buy. Hold on.
Still not financial advice, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Still not financial. Oh boy. All right. I gotta get my Jim Cramer buttons going here next. Okay. Anyways, Eshan, much fun as always.
Yes.
All right, man.